So now it's time to hear from somebody who is going to fascinate us, because the topic itself is fascinating. Just before the evening got underway, I had the pleasure of meeting Tammy, and we had a quick chat, and I thought, she is so lovely. This is the kind of person that I'd like to sit back with a glass of wine and spend an afternoon with. And then I read her bio and I thought, she doesn't have time to have wine with me. Obviously, she's a very, very busy and a very accomplished lady. Tammy Mackenzie is a researcher, tech CEO, policy advocate, and mother. She's the executive director and co-founder of the Aula Fellowship. She is alumna of Mind, Vanier College, McGill University, Université de Laval, and the Mila Summer School in Responsible AI. She's a guest researcher at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology at their Center for the Study of Science and Technology's group of the Digitization of Culture, DigitCult it's called. Tammy is an MBA specializing in SMEs, tech, and sustainability. Beginning her career in a CPA firm, Tammy has worked as a SME account director, then as a business owner, controller, and CFO, and honed her expertise in leveraging cutting-edge technical, ecological, and social tools for societal and environmental betterment. These roles laid the foundation for her work in strategy and systems, particularly in the realms of small businesses and applied ethics. Tammy contributes to public policy through her roles as a consultant and facilitator, offering strategies rooted in her multidisciplinary experience. Tammy is completing her PhD research, no time for wine, focusing on the levers of power in society. This endeavor represents her ongoing dedication to understanding and shaping the intricate dynamics of technology, ethics, and societal progress. Please welcome Tammy Mackenzie.
Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. As you heard, my name's Tammy Mackenzie. I'm the director of the Aula Fellowship. It's a think tank for AI. I work to help people understand AI. Did you hear me? What's a think tank director? It's getting people together to figure out problems in society, challenges in society. Before that, as you heard, my main focus when I was young, my main training was as a controller. So unlike others, I'm not an educator, and as a controller, what we learn to do, I have good news and bad news for you tonight. The bad news is I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what's coming in AI. As a controller, though, what I can do is say that there's things that we can do to prepare for it and to learn about it that'll help us as a society get through it. So I'm going to check my notes and make sure I'm not missing anything as I go. Hope you'll bear with me. Obviously, I should have found my page before starting. Oh, here we go. All right. Much Ado About Nothing. It's an ancient story. It's about 500 years old. It's not my story. A bunch of people get together in an Italian Renaissance home to try and figure out a bunch of challenges. It's a comedy of errors, this story. They get cross messages. They don't understand each other. People who are supposed to be together aren't together. People who are supposed to be apart aren't apart. And throughout the whole thing, it's funny. People get confused. But at the end, because they have somewhat easy problems, misunderstandings, they can clear it up. And it becomes Much Ado About Nothing. AI isn't Much Ado About Nothing. There's easy questions and there are hard questions. Decision makers in AI, which is, to be clear, everybody who has to make a decision that has to do with AI, have a series of really hard questions to answer. They're hard because they have no easy solutions. And I wonder if we can go to the next slide. I don't have a clicker. Is this the clicker? Yeah. Oh, there we go. So what I hope to do tonight is to give you the means to join the conversation on AI. You may think that seems far away. I hope at the end of when I'm done talking, you'll think that you can do that. We'll see. I'd like to ask you a question. If you can clap, who here's eaten carrot soup? Lots of people, carrot soup. Maybe a fewer people. Who here's grown a carrot? All right, Nova Scotia, lots of people planting. Who here's harvested salt? There's an ocean. No, nobody's harvested. Made a stove. Made a soup pot. Okay, so you're gathering what I'm saying. There's not a lot of people who've been able to do all the things to make a carrot soup, but when we need to make a carrot soup together, we need all those ingredients. Not everybody needs to know how to plant the carrot, not everybody needs to know how to harvest the salt, but we do need all those ingredients. You've guessed it, society is the soup. Here we go. Bear with me while I figure out the clicker. AI is a carrot soup machine. That's an easy analogy. I'm really underlining here, I'm not a teacher, but my teacher friend helped me come up with this. I said, what I want people to understand is that it's a machine that's gonna take over parts of the decisions that we usually make as people in our society. And that's not a bad thing. A carrot soup making machine can be useful, it can make good carrot soup, but it helps us understand what the challenges are in AI. Who decides what type of carrots go into that machine? Who decides what's the flavor of the soup that's gonna come out? Who decides what the recipe is? How do we test it when it comes out? Yes, society is a soup. You've heard AI is a black box. That's not true. There's parts of it that aren't clearly understood by everybody, but we do understand what we're putting into it in terms of data, and we do understand what's coming out of it, or we should, because it's being sold to us. So if you're going to buy it, you should know what's coming out of it, and it's usually clear on the instructions. This is a machine that will do that function. So don't be fooled or intimidated by the idea that it's hard to understand. There's plenty of things hard to understand, and we don't need to, any single one of us, understand the whole thing. But we do need to kind of get together to understand what's happening in these soup boxes that they're trying to sell us. And I'm a fan of the technology, but I also want to know what it's going to do. In the case of AI, it gets a bit more complicated. We're back to the easy questions and the hard questions. An easy question in AI is it going to disrupt jobs? It's easy because the answer is it's already disrupted jobs. What gets hard is, how is it going to disrupt jobs? Who's going to make choices about how it's going to disrupt jobs? Who's going to make choices about the consequences when the disruptions are realized in different ways through the economy? Same thing for Indigenous sovereignty. Is Indigenous sovereignty going to be disrupted by AI? Already the case. The data that goes into it is absolutely not Indigenous data, and there's not enough data in order to make those machines be reasonable for those communities. So is it disrupted? Yes. How is it going to be disrupted in the future? Who's going to choose? Who's going to benefit from it? Those things are still up in the air. That's back to my bad news. No crystal ball. All that, and I really appreciate the bio. My education, my work, didn't give me a crystal ball. Back to being a controller. The idea is that what can we put in so that we can see what's coming and think about those questions. I want you at that conversation, so I'm switching my page here. Oh, education, disrupted, definitely. Easy question, is it disrupted? Yes. Hard question, what are the consequences of it? How are we going to use it? How are we going to empower ourselves and our people to be able to make good with these technologies? When we think about the hard questions in AI, and I want you to think about the hard questions in AI, there's a few types of categories. The first one is who decides? Who are the people who decide? How are they going to make the decisions? Are they accountable for those decisions? Are they transparent? Who decides? How are those decisions made? The second one, you see the dollar sign, it's, who benefits? What's the cost? Who's going to get the value out of it? Who's going to be left behind by it? And last but certainly not least, who are the vulnerable people? Who are the people who are vulnerable to these changes? How do we identify them? How do we prepare them and the world and the tools that we're going to put into our soup so that we're thinking in terms of vulnerable people? I like to tell you a story about junior hockey. It's a good example about how AI can be complicated, good but complicated. Imagine a junior hockey team is being offered a tool that will allow them to measure and with machine vision track each of their players through a season. How they skate, how they score, when they're having a good day, when they're having a bad day, depending on which team they're playing again. You can put more data in and have information about their health, about their personal life, and start getting a lot of information. Now, this isn't replacing a job. You would never, as a junior hockey team, hire somebody to analyze the perfect skating style of all your players through a season. This is a good example of AI because it gives us something that we wouldn't put in that type of effort ever to get that information about our performance in the case of junior hockey, because we wouldn't hire the 20 people that's required to do it. So we'd be getting this information. Now, it gets more complicated. Is it correct? Does it make mistakes? Is it more likely to make mistakes with a black player or an indigenous player than a white player? The answer is yes. The minute there's a camera involved, they make more mistakes, depending on, skin color. So, and again, I'm not giving you answers tonight, I'm sorry about that, but there's questions to be asked. And they're always kind of complicated. And if we go through this idea here of, who's deciding, will it be the team who decides? Will it be the players who decide? If one team gets it, do they have an advantage over the other teams? We're back to the money, we're back to the vulnerable people. Again, those players who would not have the same data about them as their lighter-skinned teammates. And another way to think about it is in terms of trade-offs. When we're going to be making a decision with whether or not we're going to put AI into something, we have to wonder, what are we trading for this automation system? Are we trading privacy for security? The answer is yes. Usually if you're going to get more security, what you're exchanging for it is privacy. I'm not saying that's not a fair deal. I'm saying we have to be asking the questions. Other trade-offs, efficiency for environmental costs. The machines have a lot of they're expensive to use. They're expensive on energy, they're expensive on water. So when we want to get more efficient, for example, at analyzing a junior hockey team's performance, how much environmental cost are we willing to pay for it? One other trade-off, speed for quality. Mayor Fillmore was talking about his speech. He prompted to get a speech, and the speech wasn't very good, but it was very fast. So that is the trade-off with AI. Quite often, if it's going to be a creative output, you're going to be getting something that's not made by a person that may or may not have the quality that you want and isn't very changeable, but it usually is a trade-off, speed for quality. So how do we figure it out? Here we go. Can you see what they're talking about? I mean, they're talking about making soup. So I spent some time copy-pasting, They're talking about making soup. They're not all talking about the same parts of the soup, but they have to be talking about it, and they're feeling good about talking about it, and the ones who know about carrots are talking about carrots, So we need everyone at the conversation on AI. How do we get a conversation on AI across society? That's what I've been working on internationally, to get literally everybody, 8.5 billion people, to the conversation on AI. That's a lot of people. What are the preconditions for us to get to that conversation? And that's where we get to AI literacy. I'm not telling you anything surprising. This is, Literacy Nova Scotia's annual gala. And I'm here to tell you about AI literacy in a way that, again, I'm not a teacher. So I thought hard about that. Like, did I want to go and read up about what are definitions of literacy and try to explain to you what you know better than me, and I'm sure of it. What I can tell you is this. What I understand of literacy for AI literacy that crosses across, just makes it literacy, is that it's about understanding symbols, using those symbols to understand the ideas that are attached to them, and then using those ideas to make change in the world. In terms of AI, many people in this room may or may not recognize this as binary, this 01001 thing. This is a 100-year-old language, but it's at the base of almost every computer that we have. And yet, I'd be willing to bet that not very many people in the room can tell me what number that is. So, I want you to understand that. You don't need to know every aspect of AI, but you need to be asking the questions. So that's at the base of literacy in any case, but it's certainly at the base of literacy of AI. We'll talk in a minute about some of the resources you have for that. AI literature, access, capacity. Everybody needs access and capacity. So, can people make a change? Does asking the questions enough? Is AI going to roll over people who have no choice in the matter? Is it bigger than us? When I went back to school, I'm an adult learner, basically keep going back because I like doing it. When I went to study for my PhD, I wanted to know, can one person make a difference in the world? And if you remember nothing else from tonight, I want you to remember the answer is yes. We know for sure that people can make a difference in the world. The reason that it'll feel sometimes that we can't, like it's too overwhelming, is because actually we're not supposed to be able to change it alone. It's really not supposed to change just because one person wants it to be different. A small group of people aren't supposed to be able to take over the world. I still have hope for their democracy and for ours. So how do we do it? We get together, we take our parts of it, we talk. What I learned is there's different levers of power. None of these are going to be unfamiliar to you, but I can guarantee you that everybody in this room has access to some levers of power. We have formal levers and informal levers. Formal ways of getting involved with decision making are things like, voting, going to public consultations, joining a board, getting involved with your church, getting involved with your school, getting involved with your community. These are the formal ways. They go all the way to informal. It's talking to people, talking to your family members, asking them those questions, asking the questions together, being brave in your professional group, in your home group, in your community group to ask the questions and not let that big ball roll over anybody. There's no need. When we get together and decide how we want AI to exist in our society, we'll have the power to do that if we sit down and we insist on having the power to do that. My mother-in-law, Madame G, for her privacy, I'm not telling you her last name, but I call her Madame. She's amazing. She's 84 years old. She had 14 brothers and sisters. She worked in healthcare all her professional life. You can imagine that with 14, she's the oldest, 14 brothers and sisters, this lady can problem solve. Like she's not afraid of anything, and any problem, she just takes it. There's no problem. And yet, when we told her I was going to be working in AI, she was, worried, taken aback, doesn't know what that means. What are you going to be doing? Are you going to be making AI? Are you going to be talking about it? Her worry comes mostly because what she sees on TV about AI is confusing, huge, touches every sector, and seems really far away from her abilities to understand what's happening. If I asked her, Madame G, they want to put in a robot at the local pharmacy that is going to make errors on your pills 1 out of 100 times. Oh, excuse me. If I ask her without telling her about the error rate, she goes, I don't know. How am I supposed to know if we should have AI or a pill counting robot? Now I give her the error rate. She's going to start to be able to get more information. So I give her the error rate, 1 out of 100. She says, oh, that's worrisome, 1 out of 100, that's not good. I said, well, Madame Godet, you know what? Madame G, the robot, sorry, Madame G, that robot can make mistakes 1 out of 100 times, but the pharmacist actually makes mistake 2 out of 100 times. Oh, well, in that case, she's gonna think, I'd rather the robot, but wait. The pharmacist makes those mistakes 2% of the time, but only on the pills that aren't important. The ones that are really important that might, really hurt you if they're wrong, 0 mistakes, like minuscule. She checks it 10 times harder. She doesn't make those mistakes. Now, Madame Godet doesn't necessarily know what to do about it, but she can join the conversation about it. Because she can make a decision about whether or not she wants that level of risk. What's it in exchange for? Is it gonna save her money? Is it gonna save her time? That's where the hard questions come in. I have to underline that. When somebody says to you, I want to put a robot in your farm, they can answer those questions. They have to be able to answer those questions. What's the point of putting it in? What's the advantage of putting it in? What's the cost? What are the risks? What are the risks to me? And more than that, insist on hearing it in a way that makes sense to you. So backing it up a little bit, if I told Madame Godet, we're putting a robot in, what do you think? She's gonna wave her hands and not be able to answer. But she's 84 years old and would have no trouble answering whether or not she wants her robot to be making mistakes or not. Does she want, that risk? Oh, the Nova Scotia slide. So I wanted to find out what's happening in Nova Scotia at AI, and it's a good illustration. So bear with me, we're going to go through it pretty quick. This is the way for you to get involved. You have an interest, you go, how can I help in AI? Who's working on AI? What are they doing in AI? This is the list for you. I have it in PDF. Go on the website afterwards, let me know, send me an email. I'll send it to Jane, you can have this list. So here we go, First Nations communities. I didn't find anything online that's pretty normal for First Nations communities because they're super active. And if you're a First Nations person, you can go to your community and have that conversation. This is kind of standard and been quite regular for First Nations communities across Turtle Island, but also I'm aware of many Mi'kmaq communities where it's the case. So I invite you to do that. I'm not Indigenous and I can't speak for them, but I do know that they have ways of talking, going to reach the community, going to the education center and talk with people about what's coming with AI with your community and what you can learn about how it's going to be put in. Nova Scotia, great initiatives. They've just put $43 million into an agreement with Google for the health services so that they'll be using AI in health services. If you're curious about that, you can ask about that. You can get involved with that. Things like public consultations we were talking about before. The formal and informal levels of power. Talk to people who are working on it. Government of Canada, obviously they're a little gridlocked right now. But they have programs, they have code of conduct, they have code of conduct for business, they have code of conduct for bureaucrats, for people working in government. Banks are signing up for it. City of Halifax has a bunch of new initiatives. One of them is really exciting. They're using machine vision to detect early detection on wildfires so that people are safe. Invest Nova Scotia is doing a good promotion internationally to get people to come here to make AI, but also because there's so many people here who can help make it, and also good schools. So, here's my clicker, I still have it, here we go. Oh, it's so tiny. Digital Nova Scotia has been doing great. They are making programs with the community colleges, with universities, with Francis Xavier University for digital microcredits. So really short programs on different parts of AI to get involved in making it, to get involved in understanding it. The unions. I invite you, if you're a part of a union, get involved with the union. Of course, the unions have already started in many ways with committees and consultations and seeing what the different major employers are using these tools. And they're at the front lines of making sure that if we're changing jobs, we're making sure that the people who had a job still have a meaningful work within their organization. Churches are doing something amazing as well. They're learning together, they're making groups together to talk about the theology and the spirituality of AI. I'm not a theologian, but it seems exciting to me for as a person of faith to have those conversations with other people to see how we want these tools rolled out for our ministries, but also with regards to the spiritual aspect. So I leave that to you to check with your spiritual people. I'm going to finish with briefly us, the Aula Fellowship. So we're a fellowship of specialists from across all fields whose job it is, whose mission it is to get everyone to the table on AI. The way we do that is we answer people's questions. So if you have any questions, get in touch. We'll have a chance to do that tonight as well. Literacy Nova Scotia, training people, training practitioners, making sure that adult learners are getting to the table. It's not by accident that they invited me here tonight. They know that the future of Nova Scotia is going to depend on people being able to engage with these questions. So thank you for having me tonight. Here we go. We're almost there. Cape Breton University. A bunch of guides. If you go online, they're already working in different departments to put together guides for how teachers can use it, how learners can use it, how businesses can use it. They have a community AI building program for small businesses that can come in and work to build AI. That's just like a sampling of what universities can do as a center in a community. Dalhousie has programs in every single department has AI programs, and they're asking these questions and having conversations about it, including about Indigenous AI and engineering and AI, education and AI, law and AI. St. Francis Xavier, as I said, is doing microcredit courses, same as the Nova Scotia Community College Network. They're doing credits across through business, through tech, so that people can learn it. One fun initiative is the Technology Advancement Program at, oh goodness, it's at Yarmouth Comprehensive High School and 2 other high schools. It's a program where the kids are going to come out at the end able to use AI. So I'm switching here, almost done, and I'll leave you to your desserts. I'm back to the hard questions, and I invite you to not only ask them to each other, ask them to me, come find me afterwards. I know there's kind of 2 types. What can we do? And yeah, but that doesn't make sense, or this isn't working, or we need this, or we need that. Those like hypercritical questions are important. I get that socially they're hard to ask. If we don't ask them, however, we're going to be receiving these technologies as opposed to taking them in hand for ourselves in our own society. So I'll leave you with this. We get the carrot soup we make. Thank you.